Isn't it fascinating how sometimes just a little snippet in time can have a monumental impact on our life and our work? About 25 years ago, I was working as a technical recruiter for one of Chicago's best places to work winners. And it was right after Christmas, and I had spent the Christmas holiday directing Christmas pageants for children and in choirs for Christmas services. And it was my first day back to work, and I went to see my boss, Steve, who's also a friend, and say, "Hey, Steve, how was your Christmas?" And he said, "Oh, we went to visit his parents in Indiana. They had a truck farm. He spent Christmas Eve alone in a hotel," which I thought was a little odd. And I said, "What, so did y'all go to church?" And he had a visceral response. "Oh, people who go to church are hypocrites." I said, "Well, Steve, I go to church." Silence. Silence. And as I look in the rearview mirror of life, that moment of silence, Steve's silence, was catalytic. It transformed the trajectory of my world. It actually, in ways that I don't have enough time to share with you this morning, but it was this catalytic moment in my life. Not for Steve. Steve has no recollection of that conversation, which is quite fascinating to me. But it launched my fascination with this relationship between knowing and doing as a human being. About 2 years later, I was working on my PhD, and I became familiar with the work of Chris Argyris out of Harvard. And he has this little model, a wonderfully simple model that says, we as human beings have this espoused theory of ourselves. It's who we believe ourselves to be. And then we have this in-practice self. It's what we really do. It's how we're experienced as a human being. And he says the difference between those two actually lies in our unconscious. We're not aware. I call it our toilet paper on the shoe stuff that we don't know about until somebody tells us about it. And so, I invested about 20 plus years of my life working with leaders and organizations, helping them bridge that gap, because that difference that lies between the knowing and the doing is where integrity begins to fall apart. So fast forward 20 years or so, and my husband and I launch a commercial architecture business. And now, physician, heal thyself, the shoemaker's children have no shoes. I suddenly have the opportunity to practice all of these things I've been preaching for 20 years as a business owner. And one of the things we put into place were milestone conversations with our employees. And these are the questions that we'd ask. What's been most rewarding? What's been most frustrating? What could we do or provide you that would help you excel at your job? How have you contributed to our organization's success? What ideas do you have that would help us improve? And we had these robust conversations. It was really fantastic. And then we got slammed with a huge project. We got really busy, missed one round of conversations, missed another round of conversations. And that's the day our leadership integrity began to die. Just a little slow death. We didn't follow through on our commitment to our employees to a process that aligned our culture with our vision and values. I failed as a leader. And boy, do I have a lot more grace with the clients I work with now as a result of this. Perhaps you can understand. I work with a client. We launched this organizational-wide assessment. Maybe it's 360 feedback. Maybe it's an engagement survey. We talk with the employees. We implore them to provide us honest, candid feedback. We need that in order to drive change in our organizations. We gather the data. We say we're going to change. And then all of a sudden, our leaders, our best leaders, often our executives, get too busy to follow through on anything. And I believe that our employees are counting on us to follow through, to listen, to respond. That's where our integrity lies. And then what happens 2 years later when we come around again and we say, it's time for another survey. Hey, you're going to change the culture. Give us your honest, candid feedback. How do they feel about it? How much credibility do we have? How do we feel as champions for those processes? So I'd like to invite you to think a little bit differently about these surveys and tools. Instead of thinking about them as performance management tools or performance evaluation, which they're not supposed to be, or ways to compare our company to another company, one leader to another company, or to another leader, what if we thought about them as vehicles that help transform the integrity of the organization, ways that we help our leaders walk their talk, ways that we help groups of leaders align their leadership practices with the vision and values of our company. What if surveys actually became the primary value being to launch an integrity alignment process for our organization each year? 25 years ago, I thought I was called a hypocrite, opposite of integrity. I wouldn't change it. It's launched it's launched the trajectory of my life's work, and I just am done now.